Tycoon, he left his mistress to the Gala, but his plain ex-wife arrived with a billionaire husband, Richard Hamilton. The Tycoon, the man who could command markets with a single decision. His name was etched into skyscrapers, whispered in boardrooms, feared by competitors. He carried himself like someone untouchable, a man above ordinary struggles. Yet behind the flawless image lay cracks invisible to the public eye, a truth he fought to conceal even from himself. That truth had a name. Vanessa. He whispered under his breath, as though saying it aloud made the secret taste sweeter, more forbidden. The door to his office clicked open, and there she was. Young, beautiful, ambitious. Her heels tapped against the marble floor, her crimson lips curving into a smile that was equal parts charm and victory. She was not his wife. She never would be. Yet when Vanessa walked into the room, Richard felt something he hadn't felt in years. A rush, a thrill, the dangerous high of living a double life. "You kept me waiting?" she teased, sliding a manicured hand across his desk as though she were already claiming a territory that wasn't hers. Richard smirked, adjusting his tie. "A man like me doesn't keep anyone waiting. I was simply deciding if you're worth the time." Her laugh was soft, almost practiced. "And am I?" He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch heavy with entitlement. "More than worth it." For a moment, silence lingered between them, filled with the hum of the city far below. Richard liked control. He thrived on it. And yet, with Vanessa, control was something else entirely. An illusion. She made him feel powerful, but also reckless. She made him feel alive in ways his wife, Emily, no longer did, or so he told himself. But if Richard's eyes reflected hunger and arrogance, Emily's eyes, at that very moment miles away, reflected something entirely different. At their home, a mansion carved into the hills, Emily sat in the nursery, rocking their little boy to sleep. The child's soft breathing filled the quiet room. She ran her hand gently over his hair, whispering a lullaby her mother once sang to her. She was devoted, patient, and endlessly loyal. Everything Richard had once fallen in love with. But Richard wasn't there to see it. He wasn't there to see the way her smile faded when she looked at the empty side of their bed. He wasn't there to hear her whisper into the silence, "Why don't you come home anymore?" He wasn't there to feel the loneliness that pressed against her chest like an uninvited weight. Instead, Richard was pouring whiskey into a crystal glass, watching Vanessa curl herself on the leather sofa like she already belonged to his empire. "You know," Vanessa said, her tone playful yet edged with calculation, "people are starting to talk. They see me by your side more often. They wonder who I am." Richard took a sip, the burn of the liquor grounding him. "Let them wonder. Rumors are fuel. They keep me relevant." She leaned forward, her voice lower, more intimate. "And what about Emily? Does she wonder too?" For a moment, the mask cracked. He set the glass down harder than he intended, the sound echoing in the large office. "Emily doesn't ask questions," he said firmly. "She knows her place." But deep inside, a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Emily had always been gentle, yes, but not weak. He remembered the way she used to look at him, like he was more than his fortune, more than his empire. She had loved the man, not the tycoon. And he knew, if he looked too closely, that he had already betrayed the best part of himself by betraying her. Vanessa smiled, satisfied with his answer, and moved closer. "Then let me take her place." Her words echoed in his ears long after she spoke them. It was dangerous, reckless, but Richard liked danger. He liked the fire of temptation, the taste of power mixed with sin. He closed his eyes briefly, letting himself sink into it, convincing himself that he deserved this. Yet far away, Emily stood by the nursery window, gazing out into the night. The city lights twinkled in the distance, a reminder of the man she had once believed in. She whispered softly, almost as though speaking to herself, "Where are you, Richard? Where have you gone?" The child stirred in her arms, and Emily pressed a kiss to his forehead, her heart heavy with an ache she dared not name. She had built her world around her husband, trusted in his promises, believed in his dreams. But lately, those dreams seemed to belong to someone else. Someone she didn't recognize anymore. Back in the skyscraper, Richard tilted Vanessa's chin, looking at her not as a woman, but as a prize. He convinced himself this was what he deserved after years of building an empire. A reward, a secret indulgence. But behind the glass, staring into the glittering city, Richard felt something stir, a whisper of unease. For every gain, there is a cost. For every secret, a truth waiting to be revealed. He didn't know it yet, but the empire he had built on pride and desire was standing on the edge of collapse. And all it would take was one moment, one glance, to bring it crumbling down. Would you like me to continue with topic 2 in the same style? Emotional narration with dialogues, 6,000 characters each. So we build the story step by step like a full series? Você diz. Certo? Agora tu como narrador e storyteller desenvolva a história sem marcos com o nome de cada tópico que for desenvolve. Me conte sobre o tópico tu com dialogo como su faço espectador. Sempre lembrando de desenvolver com muita emoção. Com muitos sentimentos de forma que a estrutura de narrativa utiliza uma linha temporal linear de modo o espectador sentir o que o personagem está sentindo amigos. Com 6.000 characters o chat GPT diz. The soft hum of the city below barely reached Emily as she stood by the nursery window, her arms wrapped tightly around her son. The evening air pressed against the glass, cooling her cheeks as her eyes traced the familiar skyline. It was beautiful and cruel at the same time, a reminder of everything Richard had built, and yet everything he had stolen from her. She sat down in the rocking chair, holding the child close, listening to the even rhythm of his breathing. She remembered the first time she had held him, the warmth of his tiny body pressed against her chest, the weight of hope and love she had poured into his fragile form. That same hope now mingled with fear, because she could feel it. Something in the distance, in the whispers of the world outside her home, was shifting. Her phone buzzed on the table beside her. A message from a friend, casual in tone, yet it brought a sharp sting of reality. The photograph that had accompanied it made her stomach twist. There he was, her husband, in a lavish suit, laughing as Vanessa leaned into him. The private jet in the background gleamed in the sun, a symbol of his freedom and her absence. Her lips trembled, but she forced herself to read the words. Emily, I saw him. I'm so sorry, but you need to see this. She swallowed hard, gripping the child's small hand. Why would he do this? She whispered, as though the sound of her voice could make the betrayal less real. She felt a shiver travel down her spine, not from the cold, but from the sudden realization that her life, carefully built around love and trust, had been rewritten without her knowledge. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them away. She refused to cry here, in the nursery where her son slept. Instead, she picked up her phone and dialed her closest friend. I don't know what to do, she admitted, voice barely audible, choked with the weight of her emotions. Emily, listen, her friend said firmly, sensing the storm raging behind her composure. You need to stay calm. Don't let him see you broken. You're stronger than this. For you and for your son. Emily closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. Her friend was right. She had always been strong, but strength felt hollow without direction. The first step was clarity. She needed to understand the full extent of what had happened and what it meant for her future. The following days were a blur of whispers, glimpses, and confrontation avoided. Emily watched Richard's movements from afar, noticing the casual arrogance in the way he carried himself in public, the way Vanessa clung to him as though she had a rightful claim to everything he owned. Every detail was a blow to her pride, a constant reminder that the man she had loved, the man who had promised her a life together, had chosen someone else without hesitation. But even in the depths of her pain, a small spark of defiance grew. Emily had loved Richard, yes, but she had never depended entirely on him for her own sense of worth. She would not let his betrayal define her. She began to step outside the walls of their home more often, venturing into spaces she had abandoned for years. The gym she had quit, the charity events she had declined, even the quiet cafe where she once wrote in a journal. All became small arenas where she could reclaim a sense of self. One evening, at a charity gala for underprivileged children, Emily's life took an unexpected turn. She stood by a grand staircase, watching donors mingle, when she felt a presence beside her. Turning slightly, she met Alexander's gaze for the first time. He was older than Richard, refined in ways that suggested experience and depth, but there was an unmistakable warmth in his eyes, a sincerity that caught her off guard. "You're Emily, aren't you?" he asked, his voice calm, not probing but curious. "Yes," she replied, careful to maintain her composure. "I'm Emily," he smiled faintly. "I've heard of you, your work, your dedication. You have a presence that commands attention, even in a room full of the wealthy and powerful." She felt her chest tighten. Praise felt foreign, unfamiliar. Richard had never spoken to her this way, not with admiration, not with genuine respect. "Thank you," she said softly, unsure if the words sounded believable. They spoke for hours that night, and for the first time in months, Emily felt seen. Not as a wife, not as a mother, not as someone defined by a man's choices, but as a person. Alexander's questions were thoughtful, his laughter easy. He didn't rush, didn't force intimacy. And yet, every word, every glance made her feel a flicker of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel since the betrayal. Hope. Richard, of course, remained oblivious. He continued his escapades, taking Vanessa to extravagant parties, private jets, and exclusive trips. He didn't notice Emily's subtle transformation, her growing confidence, her resilience. The life he thought he had taken control of was shifting under his very nose. And yet, Emily was careful. She didn't rush. She didn't want revenge, at least not in the way that would give him satisfaction. Her plans were slow, deliberate. Every moment she spent away from him, every smile that didn't include his name, every glance shared with Alexander was a silent reclamation of her own life. She began to see patterns in his absences, the way he flaunted wealth in public yet ignored the consequences of his actions. She began to document, to strategize, but above all, she nurtured the quiet love for her son, ensuring that his world was safe, stable, and filled with the warmth that Richard had abandoned. One rainy evening, as she stood by the nursery window again, holding her child close, she whispered, "We will be okay, my love. We will find our way." Her voice was soft but firm, carrying the weight of a promise she intended to keep. Emily knew the path ahead would be hard, that confrontation was inevitable, but she no longer felt powerless. The betrayal had hurt her, yes, but it had also awakened a strength she hadn't known existed. A strength that Richard could never take away, no matter how high his jets could fly. Meanwhile, Richard was already awake, pacing in the private suite of the hotel where he and Vanessa had stayed after a night of indulgence. The room smelled of expensive perfume and whiskey, both his own and Vanessa's. He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the familiar stirrings of arrogance and excitement that came with having someone completely under his spell, or so he thought. "Are you thinking about her again?" Vanessa's voice sliced through the haze, teasing yet sharp, as she leaned against the marble countertop, one hip jutting out provocatively. Richard paused, the words catching in his throat for just a moment. "It's not about her," he said firmly, though his voice betrayed a fraction of the doubt he refused to acknowledge. "It's about nothing, just business on my mind." Vanessa smirked, clearly sensing the tension. "Business, huh? Or is it the thought of Emily that keeps creeping in?" Richard's jaw tightened. "I told you, she's irrelevant. The past is the past." Her laugh was low, almost dangerous. "You say that, but every time your phone buzzes, your expression changes. You can't hide it from me. I know you better than she ever did." Richard's hand fell to his side. "Stop," he said, but the command had no force behind it. Vanessa stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming the room, and he inhaled sharply, realizing in that instant how much he craved her attention, and yet how uncomfortable he was admitting it. Meanwhile, Emily had begun her day with careful planning. She couldn't allow herself to crumble. The The city had a way of exposing weakness, and she was determined that her family, her son, would not suffer the consequences of Richard's recklessness. She dressed in a simple, elegant outfit that suggested strength without arrogance, and glanced at herself in the mirror. Her reflection showed the exhaustion of sleepless nights, but also a quiet resilience. She was no longer just the wife left behind. She was a woman who had to take control of her destiny. Later that afternoon, Richard made his way to his office, Vanessa at his side. Their arrival drew curious glances from colleagues and assistants alike, whispers rippling through the halls. He walked with his usual confidence, but behind the bravado, a subtle unease had begun to take root. The more he flaunted his affair, the more he realized he had no idea how Emily had reacted, or if she had reacted at all. "Relax," Vanessa murmured, brushing a hand against his arm. "It's all under control." He nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He couldn't shake the memory of Emily at the gala, her composure unwavering, her presence commanding respect even without him. The thought pricked at him uncomfortably. He shook it off, reminding himself that he had moved on. He deserved to move on. Across town, Emily attended a meeting at a nonprofit she had supported in secret. Her voice was confident, her ideas sharp, and for the first time in months, she felt that old spark of purpose. She realized that while Richard had been playing his games in luxury, she had been quietly reclaiming her life. And the thought that she might not only survive his betrayal but flourish despite it filled her with a dangerous, intoxicating sense of empowerment. But even as she smiled at the board members, a sharp pang of doubt lingered. She knew that Richard's world was unpredictable, and that sooner or later, her careful plans would collide with his reckless decisions. She sensed the storm gathering, a force invisible yet inevitable, and she couldn't ignore the sense of suspense tightening around her chest. That evening, Richard and Vanessa attended an exclusive event in a skyscraper ballroom. Richard's laughter echoed across the polished floor, his charm masking the subtle tension simmering underneath. Vanessa clung to his arm, whispering compliments, and he allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. Yet the image of Emily in Alexander's presence, radiant and respected, returned unbidden. He pushed the thought away, but it lingered like a shadow in the corner of his mind. "Everything looks perfect tonight," Vanessa said, eyes gleaming with ambition. "Everyone's talking about us, about me, about you, about how powerful we are together." Richard nodded mechanically, though part of him wondered if power meant anything at all if it couldn't command loyalty, love, or respect from the people who mattered most. He felt a pang of something he didn't recognize, an uneasy foreboding. He hadn't felt this in years, not with his business dealings, not with boardroom victories. The thought of losing control, even subtly, was a feeling he wasn't prepared to face. Meanwhile, Emily was quietly attending a private reception across town, invited to speak about her advocacy work. Alexander had accompanied her, but he stayed in the background, allowing her the spotlight she deserved. As she spoke to donors, her son's small figure tugged gently at her memory, reminding her that her life, though complicated, had direction, purpose, and love that was untainted by betrayal. As the night deepened, Richard's event reached its peak, lights dazzling, glasses clinking, applause echoing. He raised a toast with Vanessa, but the applause felt hollow. His mind wandered to Emily, to the way she had carried herself in public without him, to the whispered admiration she had drawn, and for the first time, a seed of fear took root. What if her new path threatened the empire he had assumed was untouchable? What if the world he had built on wealth and image was nothing compared to the dignity she commanded with just her presence? Vanessa, sensing the shift, leaned in closer. "What is it?" she whispered, teasing but wary. "You look distracted." He forced a smile, brushing off the unease with practiced ease. "Nothing, just thinking." But even as he spoke, deep inside, Richard felt it. A premonition, a suspenseful whisper that tonight was only the beginning. Emily's world and his were converging, and the collision was inevitable. He didn't yet understand how or when, but a truth he had long ignored was approaching, fast, unstoppable, and entirely beyond his control. And somewhere in the quiet of another room, Emily smiled faintly to herself, unaware that Richard's anxiety mirrored the strength she was building. Their lives were on a path that neither could fully predict, a path charged with tension, heartbreak, and the promise of dramatic consequences. Vanessa appeared behind him, her presence magnetic and controlling. "You've been staring at that window for hours," she said softly, her fingers brushing his shoulder. "You're obsessing again, aren't you?" Richard's jaw tightened. "Obsessing?" he echoed, the word tasting bitter. "I'm just thinking about things that need attention." She stepped closer, her lips curling in a knowing smirk. "You're thinking about her, aren't you? That's why you can't enjoy this moment. That's why every smile seems forced." Richard's hand clenched around his coffee cup. "It's not her," he said sharply, though even to himself, the denial sounded hollow. "It's nothing." Vanessa's laugh was quiet but sharp. "Nothing," she repeated, her eyes gleaming. "Sure, but I see it. You can't hide it from me. You keep looking at her like she owns something you can't control." He turned to face her, the frustration in his chest bubbling over. "I don't care about her. She's irrelevant. I choose you." Her lips pressed into a thin line, not satisfied with the answer. "Words, Richard. That's all they are. You may choose me, but I want proof. I want the world to see it. I want to know you're mine." He wanted to argue, to push her away, but he couldn't. There was a part of him, buried deep under pride and ego, that feared losing control, the same part that had felt Emily's quiet power at the gala. That fear gnawed at him. Across town, Emily was moving in a different rhythm, one that had nothing to do with Richard's control or his world of excess. She had begun attending meetings with Alexander, discussing business ventures, charity projects, and strategies to protect her son's future. Each conversation gave her a sense of agency she hadn't felt in years, and she could see the admiration in Alexander's eyes. Not pity, but genuine respect. "Emily," Alexander said during one late afternoon meeting, "you carry yourself with strength, but I can see the weight of what you've endured. I want you to know, no matter what happens with him, you have control over your life here. Now." She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper but firm with conviction. "It's hard to see clearly when you've been blinded by someone else's lies for so long, but I won't let that darkness define me anymore." As the days passed, Richard's obsession with Emily grew, a gnawing tension he could no longer dismiss. He called her office more often than necessary, checking on details that had nothing to do with him. He hired investigators to discreetly track her movements, to report back on her activities, who she was meeting, what she was doing. Every report felt like a dagger of excitement and unease. Meanwhile, Vanessa grew restless. "You're slipping," she whispered one night as they returned from a lavish party. "You're watching her too closely. You're letting her existence overshadow everything we're building." Richard's face darkened. I just need to know," he admitted, the words tasting like poison. "I need to know what she's doing, how she's moving, who she's with." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Be careful. Obsession can ruin even the most powerful man. You could lose me, everything." He didn't respond because he couldn't. Part of him was terrified of losing Vanessa, but an even larger part of him was terrified of losing control over Emily. Her influence, her independence, her ability to exist without him. One evening, Emily attended a gala organized by the nonprofit, her son safely at Alexander's home. The room was filled with the city's elite, the glittering chandeliers casting reflections like shards of light across the polished floors. She moved gracefully, shaking hands, exchanging polite smiles, yet there was a quiet intensity in her gaze. She had learned to hold her own, to carry herself with dignity despite the shadow of betrayal that lingered behind her. Richard, of course, had learned of the event. He watched from a distance, hidden in the crowd with Vanessa by his side. Every laugh, every polite bow Emily gave, sent a jolt of something he didn't want to feel through his chest. Fear. Not fear of losing her love. He had long abandoned that. but fear of her strength, her independence, and the way the world seemed to recognize it without him. "She's radiant," he muttered under his breath, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. Vanessa's hand tightened on his arm. "Stop staring. You're letting her power intimidate you." I can't explain it," he said, his voice rough. "She's changed. She's untouchable." Emily's eyes met his across the room. Fleetingly, a momentary connection that left him breathless. She didn't smile, didn't acknowledge him fully. Yet the simple presence of her gaze, calm, unafraid, and filled with unspoken resolve, hit him harder than any argument could. He turned to Vanessa, anger boiling, confusion gnawing at him. "Why does she affect me like this?" he demanded, though the answer was already clear. She represented everything he had lost, everything he had taken for granted, everything he had dismissed as irrelevant. And now, seeing her command respect and admiration without even trying, he felt the first seeds of panic. Vanessa shook her head, frustration in her eyes. "You need to stop this before it consumes you. You're playing with fire, Richard." He didn't respond. He couldn't. Not yet. The obsession had taken root too deeply. He needed to see her again, to understand the growing power she held, to reclaim the control he thought was his birthright. And Emily, quietly commanding. The room, unaware of the storm she had already ignited in him, moved gracefully. A smile touching her lips only briefly, thinking about her son, about Alexander, about the life she was slowly building. One that Richard could not touch, no matter how high his jets flew or how much power he wielded. The night ended, and as she left the gala, Emily felt a surge of confidence, mingled with apprehension. She knew Richard would make his next move soon. She didn't know what it would be, but the suspense, the tension was undeniable. Something was coming, something inevitable, and it would change everything. Richard, standing on the balcony of the hotel across town, watched the city lights with a clenched jaw, realizing with a mixture of fear and fascination that Emily was no longer just a figure from his past. She was a force he could not control, a presence he could not ignore, and every step she took furthered the suspense that now gripped his life and his ego. Vanessa sat nearby on the leather sofa, watching him with a mixture of amusement and concern. "You can't stop thinking about her," she said, her voice deceptively soft. "You've crossed the line, Richard. You're letting her control you without even being in the same room." He turned abruptly, his eyes flashing with a mixture of anger and desperation. "Control me? No. I just need to know what she's planning. I need to know where she's going, who she's with, what she's doing." Vanessa's lips tightened. "And you think spying will bring her back under your control? She's not a possession, Richard. She never was." He swallowed hard, the truth of her words piercing him more than he wanted to admit. "I can't lose her," he whispered, almost to himself, the words catching in his throat. "I can't stand the thought of her with anyone else, even him." Vanessa's expression hardened, her eyes narrowing. "Then you're already lost. Obsession doesn't win battles, Richard. It destroys everything you claim to value." But he didn't hear her. His mind was elsewhere, replaying every moment Emily had been near Alexander, the ease with which she navigated a world he had always believed he controlled. The thought of her independent, respected, and free drove a tension through his chest that no amount of wealth or power could erase. Meanwhile, across town, Emily sat in her study, the soft glow of her desk lamp illuminating the notes she had been preparing for a new project. Her fingers traced the lines of strategy, her mind focused yet alert. She felt the shift in her life, the subtle stirrings of change that had begun with the first gala, the first conversation with Alexander. She could feel it in the way doors opened to her now, the way people listened to her. She was reclaiming her power, slowly, carefully. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "Richard wants to meet. Now." Emily's heart skipped a beat, a cold wave washing over her. She recognized the pattern, the sudden, commanding demand, the arrogance masked as urgency. She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "I won't let him intimidate me," she murmured, her voice firm, resonating with the newfound strength she had cultivated. She replied simply, "Where?" Minutes later, she arrived at the private lounge Richard had reserved in a neutral hotel, a place carefully chosen to avoid public attention, yet luxurious enough to assert control. He was already there, seated at a long table, the city lights behind him casting sharp shadows across his face. Vanessa was absent, which only sharpened the tension in the room. Richard stood as she entered, his expression a mixture of command and uncertainty. "Emily," he said, voice controlled but not without strain. "Thank you for coming." Emily held her gaze steady, refusing to show the flutter of nerves beneath the surface. "You asked to see me," she said, her tone crisp, measured. "I'm here. What is it you want, Richard?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and desire warring openly across his face. I need to understand why you're acting like nothing I do matters anymore. Why you can stand there so strong without me, without needing me." Emily's lips pressed into a firm line. "I've needed you, Richard. I trusted you. I built my life around you, and you abandoned me. You chose someone else. And now you come here, demanding to understand why I'm not crushed." He stepped closer, his voice low, almost a growl. Because I can't bear the idea of losing you. Not to him, not to anyone." Her eyes flared with a mix of anger and disbelief. "You think your fear gives you power over me? It doesn't. You think your money, your charm, your jets, and your lies can pull me back under your control? You're wrong." Richard's hands trembled slightly, the first visible crack in his composed exterior. "Emily, I know I've been a fool, but No!" she interrupted, her voice sharp, slicing through the tension like a blade. "You don't get to explain. Not now. You had years to be the man you claimed to be, and you failed. You made your choice. I'm making mine." For a long moment, silence filled the room, heavy, tense, charged with the weight of unspoken emotion. Richard's chest heaved with the effort of controlling himself, his pride and obsession clashing violently with the undeniable truth staring him in the face. Emily was no longer the submissive woman he thought he owned. She was a force, alive, independent, unafraid, and radiant in a way that terrified him. Finally, he spoke, voice quieter, almost a whisper. "I can't lose you." Emily leaned back, her eyes fierce yet calm, the embodiment of resolve. "You already did, Richard. You lost me the moment you decided someone else was worth more than our family. Don't test me. I will protect what's mine. My life, my son, my dignity." The weight of her words hit him harder than any insult, more potent than any blow he had ever received in business. He realized, with a pang of fear and awe, that no scheme, no obsession, no wealth could bring her under his control again. And for the first time, he truly saw her, not as a wife, not as a possession, but as a woman untouchable by his arrogance, untethered by his mistakes. Emily rose to leave, her steps steady, measured, carrying the weight of her resolve. "I hope one day you understand what it means to lose something you can never get back," she said softly, yet every word struck with precision. As she exited, the city lights behind her illuminated the space where Richard stood, frozen, the cocktail of obsession, regret, and fear swirling through his chest. He had orchestrated everything, controlled nearly every aspect of his world. Yet here was a force he could not bend, could not manipulate, could not own. Alone, he stared out the window long after her departure, his reflection fractured against the glass. He had faced many battles, conquered many enemies, and yet he felt the first sting of true powerlessness. The suspense of what would come next, the uncertainty of Emily's choices, and the slow realization that the life he thought secure was unraveling. These emotions tightened around him like chains, leaving him both captivated and terrified. Meanwhile, across the city, Richard sat in his office, the early sunlight cutting across the glass walls, highlighting the tension etched on his face. Vanessa stood behind him, arms crossed, watching his every movement with both fascination and caution. He was restless, pacing, muttering under his breath. "I can't stop thinking about her," he admitted, the words rough, jagged. Full of a raw honesty he rarely allowed himself to speak aloud. "You've crossed the line?" Vanessa said sharply, her voice a mixture of warning and irritation. "This isn't a game anymore. You're letting her power over you grow, and you don't even see it." He stopped mid-step, turning to face her, eyes dark with frustration. "Power? She's not supposed to have power over me. I built everything. I gave her everything. And she's untouchable now. She walks through the world like I'm irrelevant." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "And maybe that's because you let her be. You wanted control, but control isn't yours to take. You're obsessed, Richard. That obsession is dangerous." He shook his head violently, gripping the edge of his desk until his knuckles whitened. "I don't care. I need to see her to understand what she's doing. She's moving without me in a way I don't understand, and I can't accept it. I won't." Across town, Emily was preparing for another day that demanded focus, attending meetings with Alexander, organizing charitable initiatives, and coordinating with advisors. Every task she completed, every confident decision she made, reinforced the strength she had reclaimed. Yet even as she moved forward, a shiver of suspense ran through her. A sense that Richard was watching, waiting, calculating. Her phone buzzed with a text. "We need to talk. Tonight. Your choice." No signature, but she knew immediately who it was. A pang of unease gripped her chest, though it was tempered by a quiet resolve. She had faced him before, and she could face him again. But this time, she would not be intimidated. That evening, the private restaurant Richard had chosen was intimate, lit with low chandeliers casting a golden glow across polished wooden tables. Emily arrived first, carrying herself with an air of composure, her posture straight, her mind alert. She had dressed simply, yet elegantly, the kind of presence that demanded attention without arrogance. She felt the subtle tension in her chest, anticipation, fear, curiosity, but she let none of it show. Richard arrived shortly after, his usual aura of power and control palpable. Yet beneath it, there was a raw vulnerability he could not hide. Vanessa had not accompanied him this time, a deliberate choice to make the encounter purely between him and Emily. He approached her table, his expression carefully neutral, though the tension in his shoulders betrayed the storm inside. "Emily," he said, his voice low, controlled. "Thank you for coming." She met his gaze evenly. "You asked?" she replied, measured calm, her hands folded lightly on the table. "I'm here. Speak your piece." He leaned against the table slightly, eyes searching hers for some hint of reaction. I can't stop thinking about you. Seeing you at that gala, the way you carried yourself. Like you don't need me. Like everything I've done means nothing to you. It's eating me alive." Emily's lips pressed into a firm line. "It should. You abandoned me. You chose someone else, a life without regard for what we had. You can't control how I respond. Richard, that's not yours anymore." He swallowed, his hands clenching slightly. "I know I've made mistakes," he admitted, voice tight. "But I can't lose you. Not like this. I need to understand why you're so untouchable, why nothing I do seems to matter." Her eyes flashed, fierce and unwavering. "I am untouchable because I refused to let you define me, because I survived the betrayal you think was only a minor inconvenience. I'm here because I chose myself and my son over your arrogance. You want control, Richard, but it's gone. And the harder you fight it, the more powerless you'll feel." He took a step closer, frustration and longing warring in his expression. "Emily, I can't stand it. Every day without you feels like a loss I can't bear. I built an empire, but it's meaningless without you. I need you." Her voice was steady, yet carried the weight of years of pain and endurance. "You've had years to need me, Richard, and all you've done is show me what I cannot accept. I will not be manipulated, cajoled, or owned. I am free." For a long moment, silence filled the room, only the faint clink of a glass breaking it. Richard's chest heaved with the effort of controlling his emotions. He had faced opposition before, had conquered rivals, and yet this, Emily's unwavering resolve, was a challenge he could not defeat with power or money. "You've changed," he said finally, voice low, almost a whisper. "You're not the woman I thought I knew." "I never was," Emily replied softly. "You just didn't see me. And now, if you think you can reclaim me, you're wrong. I am building a life without fear of betrayal, without dependence on someone who doesn't respect me. You're only realizing it now, and it's too late." Richard's hands dropped to his sides, a mixture of awe, fear, and frustration flooding him. He had underestimated her strength, the depth of her independence, and the silent power she had cultivated while he had been busy living in his own illusions of dominance. Emily rose, her movements smooth and deliberate, carrying with her the aura of someone fully in control of her destiny. "I hope one day you learn that control isn't about power or money. It's about respect, love, and loyalty. And those are things you will never understand unless you lose everything that truly matters." Richard remained seated, staring at the empty space she had left behind. The suspense of her next moves, the uncertainty of what her independence truly meant for him, and the terrifying realization that he could no longer command the outcome. All of it pressed against him like a physical weight. Outside, the city continued to hum with life, unaware of the emotional storm unfolding in a quiet, dimly lit restaurant. Emily had taken her stand, Richard had confronted his obsession, and the collision between past betrayals and present strength was set in motion. The tension was palpable, the stakes higher than ever, and the question loomed over both of them. What would happen when power, love, and fear could no longer coexist in the same space? Vanessa's voice came softly from the doorway, cautious, almost hesitant. "You're losing yourself, Richard. This fixation, it's dangerous. You're not thinking straight." He whirled toward her, frustration and raw need etched into his face. "I'm not losing myself. I can't let her walk away like she means nothing. She's everything." Her eyes narrowed, her tone firm. "Everything? She isn't yours to claim anymore. You've already lost that. Don't let your obsession ruin what you still have, the empire, the influence, everything you've built. You're letting her control your emotions, and that's far more dangerous than anything she could do." He shook his head violently, gripping the edge of the desk until his knuckles turned white. "I don't care about the empire. I don't care about the money, the deals. None of it matters if I can't have her." Vanessa's expression hardened, frustration turning to warning. "And that, Richard, is exactly why you're in trouble. You can't manipulate someone who refuses to be manipulated. She's untouchable now, and you're blind if you think you can change that with wealth or charm or threats." Richard's eyes darkened, the tension in his chest coiling tighter with every word. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. He was consumed with the idea that he needed to act, to see her again, to somehow wrest back a control he had long assumed was his by right. Meanwhile, Emily was in her apartment, reviewing documents for a new charitable initiative she was spearheading. Her son played quietly nearby, unaware of the storm brewing in the adult world. She glanced out the window, letting the cityscape calm her racing thoughts, but the tension was palpable. She could feel Richard's presence lingering like a shadow, his influence creeping across her life in ways she could sense but not see. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. "Meet me. Tonight. Private. I won't take no for an answer." She knew immediately. Her heart pounded, adrenaline mixing with apprehension, but she held herself steady. She replied simply, "Where?" By nightfall, Emily arrived at the private penthouse Richard had rented for the meeting. The place was quiet, almost sterile, with city lights filtering through the large windows. She stepped in, her presence calm yet commanding, aware of every movement she made, every impression she left. Richard was already there, leaning against the grand piano, tension in his shoulders, a glass of whiskey in hand. His eyes darkened the moment he saw her, the mixture of desire, frustration, and obsession so palpable it nearly made her flinch. "Emily," he said, his voice low, almost raw, "Thank you for coming. I was asked," she replied evenly, placing herself at a careful distance. "I came. Now, what is it you want, Richard?" He stepped closer, tension radiating from his frame. I can't stop thinking about you. Every day without you is unbearable. Seeing you like that at the gala, at the restaurant, it's killing me to know you're moving forward without me." Her eyes narrowed, a mix of defiance and restrained anger. "And do you think that gives you power over me? Because it doesn't. Not anymore. You can't threaten me, charm me, or manipulate me. I am free. I choose my life, my son, and my path. You had your chance, and you squandered it." Richard's hands trembled slightly, the first cracks of vulnerability showing. "I know I've made mistakes," he admitted, voice tight, raw with emotion. "But I can't lose you. I need you. Every part of me needs you." Emily's tone was icy yet measured, each word deliberate. "You don't get to decide that anymore. I am not yours. You abandoned me, Richard. And no amount of wealth, no amount of charm, no amount of fear will change that. You're late." He took a step closer, desperation in his eyes. "Emily, you don't understand. I can fix this. I can make it right. Just let me try." She shook her head slowly, the flicker of her old fear replaced by a burning determination. "There's nothing to fix, Richard. Not for you. You can't reclaim what you destroyed. You can't undo the years of lies and betrayal with empty promises. Now, you've reached the edge of what I'll allow, and you're standing on it." The tension in the room was suffocating, charged with years of unspoken emotion, betrayal, and obsession. Richard's chest heaved as he struggled to maintain control, yet every moment he spent there, every glance exchanged, only deepened the reality he could not escape. Emily was untouchable. She had reclaimed herself in ways he could never control or predict. Finally, he sank onto the couch, defeated in a way he had never allowed himself to be before. I can't," he muttered, voice thick with frustration and longing. "I can't stand this. I can't stand that you're untouchable, that you don't need me." Emily's eyes softened slightly, though her resolve remained steel. "And that's exactly why you must learn to live with it, Richard. The life you thought you controlled is gone. I am alive, independent, and untouchable. You can't change that. Not tonight, not ever." The room fell silent, heavy with the weight of finality, yet charged with an electric suspense. An unspoken tension that promised the collision of past betrayals and present strength was far from over. Richard's obsession, Emily's defiance, the fragile balance of control and power. It all teetered on the edge of a storm that neither of them could fully predict. Outside, the city lights continued to gleam, indifferent to the drama unfolding within the penthouse walls. Inside, two lives, irrevocably intertwined, simmered with emotion, suspense, and the promise of inevitable confrontation. Emily had asserted her independence boldly. Richard had revealed his obsession fully. He poured himself another glass of whiskey, the liquid burning down his throat, but it did nothing to soothe the storm inside. "I can't let her get away," he muttered, pacing the marble floors, each step heavier than the last. "She won't just disappear. She won't let me forget her, and I can't let her forget me." Vanessa appeared silently behind him, her expression a mix of frustration and concern. "This obsession is dangerous, Richard. You're not thinking clearly. She doesn't need you, and the more you chase her, the more she'll resist." He spun toward her, eyes wild with urgency. "I'm not chasing. I need to understand. I need to reclaim something I lost." Her voice grew firmer, cutting through the haze of his desperation. "You've already lost her. What you're feeling is not control, it's fear. Fear of losing her, fear of realizing that no amount of money, no power, no manipulation can make her yours again." Richard's chest heaved, his mind swirling with conflicting emotions. Desire, obsession, regret, and fear battled within him, each vying for dominance. He didn't answer, he couldn't. His thoughts were singular: Emily. The way she had walked through the restaurant, the way she had stared him down, the strength radiating from her every movement. He had underestimated her, and now he was powerless. Across town, Emily prepared for a high-profile charity auction she was hosting, an event that had drawn the city's elite. Her son played quietly nearby, and she took a deep breath, centering herself. Tonight wasn't about Richard. It was about her future, her independence, and the life she was determined to build. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. "I need to see you. Now, private. I won't wait." She stared at the screen for a moment, the suspense coiling tight in her chest. She knew his persistence was escalating, and with it, the stakes were rising. "I can't be intimidated," she whispered to herself. "Not now, not ever." When she arrived at the designated meeting spot, a secluded rooftop lounge, Richard was already there. The city stretched endlessly behind him, lights glittering like stars. His presence was commanding, yet the tension in his shoulders betrayed the storm inside. Emily stepped onto the rooftop, her posture calm, her face a mask of confidence, though her heartbeat thudded against her chest. "Emily," he said the moment she approached, his voice low and urgent. I couldn't stop thinking about you. Every day, every hour, every second. Seeing you at the gala, at the restaurant, it's unbearable. I can't stand it." Emily's gaze met his, steady, unwavering. "And yet here you are, unable to control yourself, unable to see that you lost more than a fight for my attention. You lost my trust, my respect, my life. You're late, Richard." His hands trembled slightly, a flicker of vulnerability that he tried to hide behind his usual arrogance. I don't care about being late. I need you. I need to make this right." Emily's voice sharpened, her tone cutting through the tension like a blade. "Make it right? You abandoned me, Richard. You betrayed me. You think words can repair years of lies and selfishness? You're wrong. I am not yours to fix, control, or reclaim. I've chosen a life without you defining it." He stepped closer, the desperation in his eyes raw and visible. "Emily, please. I know I've been a fool, but I can't lose you. Not to him, not to anyone. You're the only thing that matters. The only thing I ever truly needed." She shook her head slowly, her eyes cold yet resolute. "You think that desire gives you power? It doesn't. You think obsession can bring me back? It won't. I am untouchable, Richard. You cannot manipulate me. You cannot intimidate me. You cannot own me." A sharp wind blew across the rooftop, tugging at their clothes and hair, carrying with it a sense of impending reckoning. Richard's chest heaved as he struggled to maintain control, the rawness of his emotions threatening to overwhelm him. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to reach for her, to bend her to his will, but he couldn't. Not anymore. She had become a force he could not dominate, a presence he could no longer ignore, and the suspense of her independence loomed like a storm cloud over him. I don't know how to live without you," he admitted, voice breaking despite his best efforts. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wanting you." Emily's eyes softened for just a moment, though her resolve remained unshaken. "And that's your lesson, Richard. Control isn't about wealth, power, or obsession. It's about respect, love, and integrity. You failed to understand that, and now you're left with the consequences of your own choices." Richard sank onto the stone ledge, defeated yet unwilling to leave. The suspense of what came next, the uncertainty of Emily's choices, the impossibility of bending her will, all of it pressed on him like a physical weight. He realized that this was only the beginning of a struggle far greater than he had ever imagined. A battle between desire and independence, obsession and strength, past mistakes and the inevitability of consequences. Emily, standing tall, watched him silently, her son's future, her dignity, and her life vibrating within her resolve. She had faced him fully, asserted her independence, and now the next steps. His desperation, her strategy, the suspense of the unfolding consequences, loomed closer than ever. Vanessa appeared silently, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor. "You're spiraling," she said, the calm in her voice belied by the sharpness in her eyes. "You've crossed a line, Richard. You're obsessed, and obsession clouds judgment." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing back and forth. "I don't care about judgment," he muttered, the words almost a growl. "I can't let her slip away. I need to see her, to understand her, to make her see that she still belongs in my life." Vanessa shook her head, frustration tightening her features. "Belongs? You can't make anyone belong, Richard. You've already lost her trust. Every move you make now could push her further away. She's untouchable because she's free, and you're reckless." He stopped pacing, his eyes narrowing. "Reckless? Maybe, but I won't do nothing. I won't sit here while she thrives without me. I can't bear it." By late afternoon, Emily was hosting a planning session for her new charitable foundation, surrounded by advisors and coordinators. Her son was with Alexander for the day, giving her a moment to focus. She had carefully orchestrated the day to maximize productivity, to reclaim control over her life and her work. Yet, beneath her composed exterior, a sense of suspense and anticipation lingered. She knew Richard wouldn't remain idle for long. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, terse and demanding. "Tonight, you will meet me. No excuses." The sender was anonymous, but she recognized the tone, the weight behind the words. Her heart raced, yet she refused to let fear guide her actions. "I won't be intimidated," she whispered to herself, voice steady despite the tremor of adrenaline. "I've faced him before. I can face him again." That evening, Emily arrived at the secluded penthouse Richard had reserved. The city stretched below, endless lights reflecting the tension in the air. She stepped inside, poised, her movements deliberate and confident. Her pulse quickened as she anticipated the confrontation, but she would not let it control her. Richard was already there, pacing the vast living room, his hands occasionally gripping the furniture to steady himself. His expression was a mixture of frustration, longing, and raw intensity. He didn't even look at her when she entered, consumed by the thoughts of her independence and the gnawing obsession that refused to leave him. "Emily," he finally said, voice low but charged, "you can't ignore me forever. You can't move on without acknowledging what we had, what we could still have." She met his gaze evenly, calm yet defiant. "You're mistaken, Richard. There is nothing left for us. You lost that the moment you chose someone else. You're late, and nothing you do now can change that. I am not yours to claim." His jaw tightened, eyes darkening with frustration. "You don't understand. I've realized now that everything else means nothing without you. I don't care about power, wealth, anyone else. I need you. I can't breathe without you in my life." Emily's voice was sharp, a controlled flame. "And that's exactly why you'll never have me again. You think obsession equals love? It doesn't. You've spent years proving that you cannot be trusted, that your words are hollow, your promises empty. You're late, Richard. Too late." A tense silence settled between them, charged with years of unspoken emotions, betrayal, and raw desire. Richard's chest heaved as he struggled to control himself. He had dominated boardrooms, rivals, and even lives. Yet here he was powerless, undone by the strength of a woman who refused to be subdued. "You're playing a dangerous game," he said finally, voice low, trembling with desperation. "I won't let this go. I will find a way, Emily. I will." "You think you can manipulate me into submission?" she interrupted, her voice icy. "You think your obsession can bend my will? You're wrong. You're reckless, desperate, and blinded by what you want, not what exists. I am not yours. I never was. I am free, and you will learn that whether you like it or not." Richard's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his breath coming in ragged bursts. I can't accept that," he whispered, almost to himself. "I can't lose you. I won't." Emily stepped closer, her eyes blazing. Yet there was no malice, only the undeniable power of someone who had reclaimed herself. "Then accept it, Richard. Accept that your obsession cannot touch me. Accept that I choose my life, my son, and my freedom over your desire for control. You've lost, and the sooner you face it, the sooner you can begin to understand the consequences of your choices. Richard sank into a chair, the weight of her words pressing down on him. For the first time, he felt the sting of true helplessness. He had wielded power over everyone else, controlled empires and outcomes, yet here he was, defeated by a force he had never understood. Emily's independence, her strength, her unwavering resolve. The suspense in the room was suffocating, every second stretching, each heartbeat loud and deliberate. Richard's obsession had driven him to the edge, and Emily's defiance left him teetering between desperation and admiration. He had been reckless, consumed by desire, yet he could not escape the reality that she had outmaneuvered him. Not with strategy, not with charm, not with wealth, but simply by becoming untouchable. Vanessa, standing in his office with arms crossed, watched him pace the floor like a caged predator. "This isn't obsession anymore, Richard," she said, her tone firm yet warning. "This is dangerous. You're letting desire cloud judgment. You're moving toward recklessness." He stopped abruptly, spinning toward her, eyes dark with intensity. "Reckless?" he said, voice tight, trembling with barely contained frustration. "Maybe, but I don't care. I can't sit here while she thrives without me. While she lives this life I should have been part of. I need to see her. I need to confront her. Tonight." Vanessa's lips tightened, skepticism flashing across her face. "And what do you plan to do? You've already confronted her multiple times. She's untouchable now. Any more forceful action will only push her further away." He shook his head violently, gripping the edge of the desk. "I can't let her slip away completely. I won't. I'll find a way. She'll have to see me. She'll have to." His voice trailed off, heavy with desperation and obsession. By evening, Emily was preparing for a charity gala, a high-profile event she had been organizing for months. She had meticulously arranged every detail, determined to focus on her work and her mission rather than Richard's looming presence in her life. Yet the suspense in her chest was undeniable. She knew he would not remain idle, knew he would escalate his pursuit in ways she couldn't predict. Her phone buzzed, a text flashing across the screen. "I am coming to the gala. We will speak. There is no choice. Tonight." Her pulse quickened, a mixture of apprehension and calm resolve settling in. She would face him, but she would not yield. Not tonight, not ever. When she arrived at the gala, the room shimmered with chandeliers and the quiet murmur of the city's elite. Emily moved with poised elegance, aware of every gaze, every whisper. She scanned the room, anticipating Richard's arrival, feeling the undercurrent of suspense coil tight in her chest. Then she saw him. Richard stepped into the hall, impeccably dressed, the air around him charged with intensity. His eyes locked on hers immediately, and she felt the familiar pull of tension, a storm she had learned to navigate but could not ignore. He approached her, each step measured, yet there was a raw urgency in his gaze. "Emily," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "We need to talk. Now." She met his eyes, unwavering. "We've talked enough, Richard," she replied, her tone firm but controlled. "I have nothing left to say that will change what I've already made clear. I am not yours. I never was. You've already lost me." His hands clenched slightly at his sides, the tension radiating from his body. "You don't understand," he said, voice trembling with desperation. "I can't accept that. I won't accept that. You mean more to me than everything else. I need you. I need us to be real." Emily's eyes narrowed, her tone icy, resolute. "You think need equals right, Richard? Doesn't. You can't manipulate me with desperation, or charm, or power. You abandoned me, betrayed me, and now you think force will undo that? You're wrong. I am free. I will protect my life, my son, and my independence." He stepped closer, the tension between them palpable, a charged storm ready to erupt. "Emily, please. I am not asking. I am telling you, I can't lose you. I won't. Not to anyone, not to him, not to the life you've built without me. Her lips pressed into a thin line, unwavering. And that's exactly why you will fail, Richard. You cannot bend me. You cannot force me to belong to you. I am untouchable. I am alive. And you will have to live with the consequences of your obsession. The room around them seemed to fade, the chatter and clinking glasses distant against the tension spiraling between them. Richard's chest heaved as he struggled to maintain composure, the desperate need in his eyes raw and visible. Every fiber of his being screamed to reach for her, to reclaim her, yet every instinct told him he could not. She had become a force he could not dominate, and the suspense of the unfolding confrontation pressed in, heavy, suffocating. "You think I'll just let this go?" he whispered, almost to himself, voice breaking. "I can't. I won't." Emily's gaze softened ever so slightly, a hint of pity crossing her features. "Then you will continue to suffer, Richard. You will chase shadows, consumed by desire for something that no longer exists. The life you thought you could control is gone, and you, obsessed, reckless, powerless. You will learn what it means to truly lose." Richard's hands dropped to his sides, jaw tight, breath uneven. The suspense of what came next, the unpredictability of her choices, and the stark realization of his own limitations left him teetering on the edge. The Gala's glittering lights reflected in his eyes, sharp and unyielding, mirroring the storm of emotions he could not escape. Obsession, longing, and the chilling awareness that Emily was untouchable, and he was powerless. Emily straightened, the confidence radiating from her like a shield. She had faced him fully, asserted her independence, and the suspense of what he might do next pressed against her. But she would not yield. Not to his desperation, not to his obsession, not to the life he tried to force upon her. Richard finally reached her, stopping just a few feet away, the energy between them electric, dangerous. He looked around, quickly, his expression a mix of urgency and obsession, before focusing entirely on her. "Emily," he said, voice low, rough with emotion. "We can't keep dancing around this. You can't deny what we had, what we could still have. Look at me." Emily's eyes met his, unwavering, though her heart pounded with suspense and caution. "Richard, I am looking," she said firmly, "and I see a man consumed by obsession, unable to accept the choices he made. I see someone trying to force a life that isn't his. I see someone standing in front of me who refuses to understand that I am free, untouchable, and I will not be manipulated." He stepped closer, ignoring the murmurs of the gala attendees, the clinking of glasses, the music that had once felt like background noise now distant and irrelevant. His gaze pierced hers, the intensity raw. "You think freedom means leaving me behind? You think you can live without me in your life? You're wrong, Emily. You can't do it. No one can replace me. No one. I won't allow it." Emily felt the suspense tighten in her chest, a coil of tension she had learned to control, but that still carried an edge of fear. She held her ground, letting her presence radiate strength. "Richard, you're mistaken. I am not seeking to replace you, nor do I need to. You have no control over my life anymore. You abandoned me, you betrayed me, and now you think that your desperation, your words, your presence can change that? You're wrong. I am untouchable because I choose to be." His jaw tightened, frustration and desire battling visibly in his eyes. He reached out, a hand hovering near hers, but not touching, as if the mere motion could bridge the chasm between them. "Emily, please," he whispered, voice raw, trembling with desperation. "I am not asking. I am telling you, I cannot let this go. I need you. I will not accept a life without you. You mean more to me than everything else in this world. Everything." Her lips pressed into a firm line, voice unwavering despite the tension and the electric pull of his presence. "And that is exactly why you will fail, Richard. You cannot command me, you cannot force me, and you cannot manipulate my life to suit your desires. I am alive, I am independent, and I am protecting everything I hold dear. My son, my dignity, my freedom. You've been given every opportunity to respect that, and yet you stand here, desperate, reckless, and blind to reality. You are powerless here. He clenched his fists at his sides, the surge of frustration, obsession, and longing coiling tight in his chest. Powerless? He repeated, almost a growl. I am not powerless. I've conquered everything. I've built an empire, controlled lives, shaped destinies. How can you say I am powerless? Emily's gaze softened for the briefest moment, though her resolve remained steel. Because this is different. You cannot conquer what refuses to be conquered. You cannot manipulate someone whose life, heart, and choices are not yours to control. I am untouchable, Richard, and no amount of wealth, influence, or desperation can change that. The tension between them became almost tangible, as if the very air in the room had thickened with suspense. Guests at the gala glanced subtly in their direction, sensing the charged energy, but none could intervene in the silent battle playing out. Richard's breathing was uneven, chest heaving as he struggled to reconcile his obsession with the immutable reality of Emily's independence. I don't understand. I won't accept this, he whispered, almost to himself, his voice cracking with the weight of desperation. I've always controlled everything, and yet cannot control you, cannot make you mine, not like before, not now. Emily stepped back slightly, maintaining a careful distance, her eyes sharp, resolute. Then accept it, Richard. Accept that your obsession cannot reach me. Accept that I have built a life of strength and independence. You cannot undo the past. You cannot manipulate my present. And you cannot claim my future. This is your reckoning. Face it or continue to be consumed by it. He sank into a nearby chair, tension radiating from every muscle in his body, defeated yet unwilling to look away. The suspense of what would come next pressed against them both. A storm of emotion unresolved. A collision of desire and independence, obsession and resilience, that neither could ignore. Emily straightened, her posture commanding, heart steady despite the suspense and adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had faced him fully, asserted her independence boldly, and now the real test loomed. Would he respect her choices, or would his obsession drive him to reckless extremes? Richard remained seated, eyes dark, mind racing. The gala's music and laughter seemed distant, irrelevant, overshadowed by the storm that had erupted between them. He had come prepared to confront her, to assert himself, but the reality of her strength, her untouchable presence, had struck him in a way he had never anticipated. A long silence stretched, each heartbeat loud, each second thick with suspense. Richard's desperation, Emily's calm strength, the intensity of their past, and the uncertainty of what would happen next hung in the air like a taut wire, ready to snap. Finally, he whispered, almost inaudibly, I don't know what to do next. Emily's voice, calm yet unwavering, carried the weight of truth. Then perhaps you should start by realizing that some things cannot be fixed with desire alone. Some lives, some hearts, some choices are beyond your control. That is the lesson, Richard. You must learn it, before it consumes you completely. Vanessa appeared quietly behind him, her eyes sharp, a mixture of concern and frustration. Richard, you're spiraling. You've crossed the line between obsession and recklessness. You need to stop before you destroy yourself. He spun toward her, intensity flashing in his eyes. I don't care about destruction. I care about her. I can't stand that she's untouchable, that she's moving forward without me. I have to act. I have to see her. Tonight. Vanessa's expression hardened, her tone resolute. And what do you intend to do? You've confronted her at the gala. You've made yourself vulnerable. Any more aggressive action could push her further away, or worse, expose you to consequences you're not prepared to face. Richard's hands tightened into fists at his sides. I don't care. I won't wait. I need to confront her on my terms. She will listen. She must. Across town, Emily was reviewing the final details of her charity initiative in her quiet apartment. Her son slept peacefully, unaware of the storm of tension outside her door. She felt the electric charge in the air, the familiar pull of anticipation and suspense. She knew Richard wouldn't stop, couldn't stop. His obsession was a force that would drive him to extremes, and tonight, she sensed, would be the night that force collided with her unwavering resolve. A sudden knock at the door jolted her from her thoughts. Her pulse quickened. She crossed the room cautiously, heart hammering in her chest. Peering through the peephole, she froze. Richard stood outside, his presence immediate, imposing, and unmistakable. "Richard," she said, opening the door slightly, maintaining a careful distance. "This isn't the place." He pushed it open gently, urgency radiating from every movement. "Emily, I'm sorry. Couldn't wait. I had to see you. I couldn't let you go without confronting this, confronting me, confronting us." Her eyes narrowed, the mixture of fear and determination sharpening her features. "Confronting or forcing? You've crossed the line, Richard. I've made it clear. I am not yours, I never was. You cannot manipulate me. You cannot control me." He took a step closer, desperation evident, his voice breaking. "I know I've made mistakes. I know I hurt you. I know I was selfish. But I can't lose you. I won't. I need you. I need to make this right." Emily's gaze hardened, unwavering. "Making it right doesn't mean coming here, barging in on my life, or imposing yourself. You don't get to dictate what I feel or what I do. You've been given every chance to respect that, and yet you refuse. You are reckless, Richard. You are consumed by obsession. And obsession is not love." He fell to his knees, the weight of desperation and desire crashing through him like waves. "Emily, please, look at me. Listen to me. I am not asking, I am begging. I cannot live without you. Every day, every hour, every breath, I am haunted by what I've lost. You are everything I've ever needed, everything I've ever wanted." Her eyes softened for the briefest instant, but her resolve remained absolute. "And that is why you must learn, Richard. Love is not possession. It is not obsession. It is respect, trust, and choice. You cannot bend me, you cannot force me, and you cannot undo the life I've built. I am untouchable, not because I am distant, but because I choose to be." Richard's hands trembled at his sides, tears pricking his eyes. He had been so certain of control, of power, of inevitability. Yet here, confronted by her unwavering independence, he felt the raw ache of helplessness. I don't know how to live without you," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. Emily took a careful step closer, maintaining her calm strength. "Then perhaps you must learn to live with it, Richard. Perhaps you must face the consequences of your obsession, your choices, your recklessness. I am alive, independent, untouchable. And you must reckon with the reality you refused to accept until now." The suspense in the room was almost tangible, a taut wire stretched between desperation and resilience, desire and defiance. Richard remained on his knees, consumed by longing, consumed by obsession, consumed by the undeniable truth of her untouchable strength. Outside, the city lights gleamed, indifferent, as the storm of emotions within the apartment reached its peak. The collision of their wills, the recklessness of his obsession, and the power of her independence hung suspended, unresolved, an electric tension that promised the next move. One that could change everything was imminent. Finally, he whispered, almost inaudibly, I can't let this go. I won't. I can't stop thinking about you, Emily," he said finally, voice rough and trembling, barely above a whisper. "Every day, every hour, it's you. Only you. I've tried to distract myself, to drown it in work, in wealth, in control, but it doesn't work. I can't escape you. I won't." Emily held his gaze evenly, her tone firm but calm, like an anchor in the tempest. "And that is exactly why you are in danger, Richard, because you cannot escape your obsession. You cannot control what you cannot possess. You must let it go, or it will consume you." His hands flexed at his sides, knuckles white. "Let it go?" he repeated, almost a growl. "I can't. I won't. I refuse. I've lost too much already. I've lost you. I've lost what we could have had. I cannot lose that again. I cannot live with that." Emily took a deliberate step back, giving herself space, her son's future, her dignity, and her freedom weighing heavily in her mind. "Then you will learn the hardest lesson of all," she said softly, though each word carried the steel of unwavering resolve. "Some things are beyond your control. Some hearts cannot be reclaimed by force or desperation. And the more you try, the further you push them away. You cannot manipulate me, Richard. You cannot reclaim me. Not now, not ever." Richard's chest heaved as he rose slowly to his feet, tension radiating from him like a living thing. His jaw tightened, eyes dark and stormy, mind racing with impulsive, reckless thoughts. He had always been a man who acted decisively, who did not hesitate, who had faced the world head-on. And now, the temptation to act, to confront, to force, to take control in a way that defied reason was overpowering. I have to do something," he muttered under his breath, almost to himself, pacing the room in long, restless strides. I can't just stand here while she slips away. I can't." Emily's eyes followed him, calm yet alert, sensing the dangerous energy building. "Richard, stop. Whatever you are thinking, whatever you are planning, think. Obsession does not justify reckless action. You are on the edge, and if you go further, there is no turning back." He spun toward her, eyes blazing. "I can't think. I can't wait. I have to see her. I have to confront her. I have to—" His voice faltered, breaking under the weight of raw emotion. "I have to prove that she cannot escape me, that we belong together, that I am everything she needs." Emily's gaze hardened, unwavering. "And that is exactly why you will fail, Richard. Because love is not possession. Love is respect. Love is trust. You cannot bend me, you cannot force me, and you cannot reclaim me through obsession. This is your reckoning. You must understand it, or be consumed by it entirely." He advanced closer, the storm of emotion making every step heavy, deliberate, yet unrestrained. "Emily, please, listen to me. I am not asking. I am telling you. I cannot live without you. I cannot. You are everything, the only thing that matters. I will not lose you again." Her lips pressed into a firm line, yet there was a flicker of understanding in her eyes, empathy tempered by strength. "And that is your choice, Richard. You can continue to let obsession control you, or you can learn to respect what cannot be controlled. I am untouchable because I choose to be. I am alive, independent, and I will protect my life, my son, and my freedom. This is your lesson, whether you like it or not." Richard's hands trembled at his sides, his mind a chaotic storm of desire, desperation, and recognition of powerlessness. The suspense in the room was suffocating, each second stretching into eternity. The glittering city lights outside the apartment seemed indifferent to the emotional tempest within. He had faced countless challenges in his life: ruthless competitors, hostile boardrooms, betrayals, but nothing had ever tested him like this. I can't accept it," he whispered, almost a growl. "I refuse to accept it. I have to act." Emily's gaze sharpened, her voice cutting through the charged air. "Act? And what will you do, Richard? Force me? Threaten me? Chase me? You are blind to the truth. Obsession will never reclaim what is not yours. You cannot win this way. You are standing at the edge of a precipice, and the moment you take another step, you may fall entirely." Richard's jaw tightened, eyes dark with a mixture of longing and determination, the storm of suspense coiling tighter in his chest. He had built an empire with decisive action, but this was different. Emily was different. The strength she radiated, the independence she wielded, the untouchable presence that defied his control. It left him teetering between recklessness and surrender. Finally, he spoke, voice low, raw, and trembling with desperation. "Then I will not fall. I will not surrender. I will confront this. I will prove that what we had, what we could still have, is worth everything. I will not let it go. He arrived at her building, the city lights flickering against the windows, unaware of the storm about to erupt inside. His heart pounded in his chest, a mix of desperation, anticipation, and the raw ache of longing. He knew he was walking a razor's edge, yet he could not stop himself. He needed to confront her, to face the truth of his feelings, no matter the consequences. Emily's door opened slightly before he could knock, her eyes sharp and alert. "Richard," she said, voice controlled but carrying the tension coiling between them. "What are you doing here? This is crossing a line. You've been warned. Obsession is dangerous. Do not take another step." He stepped inside without hesitation, the familiar scent of her home filling his senses, igniting a longing he had tried to suppress. "Emily," he said, voice low and raw, trembling with emotion. "I cannot wait any longer. I cannot. Every moment apart from you is unbearable. I had to see you, had to speak to you, had to..." He faltered, struggling for the right words. "Had to prove that I am not a man who gives up on what matters." Her eyes softened just slightly, though her posture remained resolute. "Richard, you are treading a dangerous path. You cannot force this. You cannot reclaim me through desperation. I am not yours to control. I am alive. I am free, and I will not be manipulated." He moved closer, the tension between them almost suffocating, as if the air itself had become charged with electricity. "I know what I did," he said, voice trembling. "I betrayed you, abandoned you, and I was selfish. But I cannot let that define us, Emily. I cannot let the years of what we shared, the love we had, the bond we formed, slip into nothingness. I need you. I need us to be real." Emily's jaw tightened, her voice icy but resolute. "And that is why you are failing, Richard, because you confuse obsession with love. You cannot reclaim someone by force or desperation. You are standing at the edge, consumed by your need, blind to the consequences. You must learn to respect my choices, my life, my freedom, or be destroyed by your own obsession." His chest heaved, mind spinning. "I cannot accept that. Cannot live without you. You are everything I've ever wanted, everything I've ever needed. I am not asking. I am declaring I will not let you go. Not now, not ever." Emily's gaze met his, unwavering, like steel. "And that is exactly why you will fail, Richard. Love is not possession. You cannot bend me to your will. You cannot erase the past or force the future. I am untouchable because I choose to be, and you are on the precipice of realizing that obsession has limits. Yours is about to be tested." Richard's hands trembled at his sides, his chest tight with desperation. He had faced impossible deals, hostile competitors, betrayals, and dangerous gambits in business, yet nothing had prepared him for this. The woman he desired, the woman he loved, stood before him untouchable and impervious to his wealth, his power, his obsession. The suspense in the room was palpable, a taut wire ready to snap. He swallowed hard, voice breaking as he took another step toward her. "Emily, I don't care about consequences. I don't care about reason. I care only about you. I will do whatever it takes. I will face any risk, endure any pain, because I cannot breathe without you in my life. You are my life, my everything." Her lips pressed into a firm line, eyes glinting with determination and caution. "Then prepare yourself, Richard, because the moment you act recklessly, the moment obsession overrides judgment, you will learn that some lives, some hearts, and some choices cannot be controlled. Not by power, not by wealth, not even by desperate love." He stepped closer still, the energy between them electric, dangerous. "I am ready," he whispered, voice raw. "I will risk everything. I will face whatever comes. I cannot live without you. You are mine, Emily. If not in your choice, then by my devotion, my persistence, my refusal to let go." Emily's gaze hardened, yet there was an undeniable pulse of emotion beneath her calm exterior. "Then you will see, Richard. You will see what it truly means to push too far. You will be tested not by me, but by the consequences of your obsession. And you may not like what you find. The room seemed to constrict around them, the suspense tightening with every heartbeat. Richard's desperation, Emily's unwavering strength, and the storm of unresolved emotions hung like a live wire, ready to ignite. The tension was suffocating, electric, and dangerous, promising that the next move, Richard's impulsive, high-stakes action, would escalate the stakes to a point from which neither could turn back. His hands flexed, jaw clenched, mind consumed. I don't care. I will act. I will face it. I will not lose you. Not now. Not ever. Emily, meanwhile, had retreated to the living room, her son asleep in the bedroom, the gentle hum of the city outside filtering through the windows. She tried to steady her breathing, but her pulse raced, every instinct alert. She knew Richard's obsession would not allow him to leave without taking action. She could feel it. The storm outside mirrored the storm of emotions she had been navigating for months. A collision of love, betrayal, and unrelenting tension. Suddenly, the sound of the front door unlocking shattered the silence. Richard stepped inside, moving swiftly yet with purpose, eyes locked on hers, intensity radiating from every muscle. Emily, he said, voice low but charged. I can't wait any longer. I cannot. You are everything, and I am done letting distance, mistakes, and pride separate us. I've come to fix this, to face it, to face you, and to face myself. Emily rose, standing tall, her heart pounding but her voice unwavering. Richard, you are reckless. You are obsessed. This is exactly what I warned you about. You cannot force a life, a heart, or a choice. You cannot claim what is not yours. Step back before this spirals beyond control. He took a step closer, chest heaving with emotion, eyes dark with desperation and longing. Step back? How can I step back when every fiber of my being is tethered to you? I cannot. I will not. I need you, Emily. Not tomorrow, not later, now. I cannot survive without you in my life. Her hands pressed together, trying to maintain composure, yet a flicker of fear and suspense rippled through her. Richard, obsession is not love. Desire is not a claim. You are standing on the edge, and if you fall further, there is no return. You must understand. No action, no force, no desperate plea can change my mind. I am free. I am untouchable, and I will not be bent to your will. He closed the distance between them, voice cracking, raw with emotion. Emily, listen to me. I don't want to manipulate you. I don't want to control you. I need to be near you to speak, to tell you that I am here, that I will not give up. Whatever it takes, whatever happens, I am yours in every way that matters. Emily's gaze hardened, unwavering despite the electricity in the room. You think words can undo years of betrayal? You think presence alone can reclaim what you lost through recklessness and selfishness? You are wrong, Richard. Love is not obsession. You cannot buy it, demand it, or seize it. You must earn it, or you will lose yourself entirely. Richard's chest rose and fell rapidly, his hands trembling at his sides. Earn it? He repeated, voice breaking, almost a whisper of agony. I have built everything for us. I have risked everything for us. I have done nothing but think of you, of him, of our life. How much more must I do, Emily? How much more before you see that I cannot live without you? Emily's eyes softened just slightly, yet her resolve remained ironclad. Richard, seeing, feeling, thinking, none of these alone are enough. Love is choice, respect, and sacrifice. You cannot force my choice, nor can you manipulate respect. You are standing at a precipice. One more reckless move, one more refusal to accept reality, and you will discover just how much obsession can consume. He stepped closer still, almost within reach, yet the tension between them made the space feel like a chasm. I am willing to risk everything. I am willing to face every consequence, every pain, every fear. If it means I can be near you, if it means I can prove to you, to myself, that we are meant to be. Her gaze met his, unwavering, eyes alight with the calm power of independence. Then face it, Richard. Face the consequences of your obsession. Face the reality that some lives, some hearts, some choices are untouchable. I am alive, Emily, untouchable because I choose to be. You must accept that, or be consumed by your own fire. The suspense hung between them, taut and suffocating. Every heartbeat a drumbeat of impending consequence. Richard's hands flexed at his sides, jaw tight, mind racing with desperate possibilities. He had never felt powerless, never been so vulnerable. Yet Emily's unwavering strength, her untouchable presence, made him realize he was on unfamiliar ground. I don't care, he whispered, voice breaking, raw and desperate. I will act. I will do whatever it takes. I will not lose you. Not now. Not ever. I am yours, whether you want it or not. Emily inhaled sharply, every muscle tense, every sense heightened. Then act, Richard. But know this, every step you take recklessly, every move driven by obsession instead of respect, will teach you the hardest lesson of your life. And tonight you will learn it. There is no turning back once you cross this threshold. Richard's eyes burned with resolve and desperation, the tension in the room almost unbearable. He stepped closer, hands trembling, chest heaving. The storm of obsession and longing, of love and recklessness, hung like a taut wire ready to snap. I am ready, he said, voice low, raw, trembling with emotion. I will face it. I will do whatever it takes. I cannot live without you. You are my life, my heart, my soul. Emily's gaze, calm and resolute, pierced through him. Then see the truth, Richard. See what it means to confront the consequences of obsession, to face a heart that cannot be forced, and to understand that love, true love, is never claimed through desperation alone. You will learn, tonight, exactly how untouchable I am. I can't stay away, he whispered, voice rough with emotion, almost breaking. I thought I could, but I can't. Every breath I take without you feels empty. Every moment apart, unbearable. Emily, I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you, I need you. I need us. Emily's eyes softened just slightly, but her voice remained firm, slicing through the weight of his desperation. Richard, this is dangerous. You are consumed by obsession, and you do not see it. I am not yours to command. You cannot fix what you broke with money, power, or force. You must understand that I am alive, I am free, and I am untouchable because I choose to be. His hands trembled, clenching at his sides. Untouchable? You call yourself untouchable, but I see you. I see every fear, every moment you try to hold your strength together. I see the heart you guard, and I know that beneath it, there's a piece of me you still want, still need. Emily's chest tightened, the suspense almost unbearable, every muscle coiled with the need to maintain control while navigating the emotional storm. And if there is, Richard, it is not yours to claim by obsession. You cannot manipulate my feelings, you cannot dictate my choices. What we had is past. What you want is not your right to take. Every step you take fueled by desperation pushes me further from you. He swallowed hard, eyes glistening with emotion, the raw ache of longing making his entire being tense. I don't care about pushing. I don't care about the past. I care about this moment, right now. I care about proving to you, to me, that what we have is worth fighting for. Worth everything. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't live without you. Her lips pressed into a line, eyes steady but her pulse racing. Richard, listen carefully. Love is not possession. Desire is not a claim. You are standing at the precipice of recklessness. One more impulsive move, one more refusal to understand, and you will not only lose me, but destroy yourself in the process. This obsession will consume you if you do not learn restraint. He stepped closer, the energy between them electric, dangerous, suffocating, yet he could not stop himself. Emily, please, listen to me. I know I've hurt you, abandoned you, betrayed the trust we built. But I can't stay away. I won't. I have to try, no matter the risk, no matter the fear, no matter the consequences. I have to. Emily's eyes sharpened, unwavering, a calm storm beneath her exterior. Trying is not enough, Richard. You cannot force a heart. You cannot bend someone's life to your will. I am untouchable, not because I am distant, but because I choose every step I take. And every action you take against that choice, every desperate act, will only show you what obsession cannot conquer. His jaw tightened, tears threatening to spill, frustration and longing battling in every fiber of his being. Then tell me what to do. How do I fix this? How do I prove that I am worthy of you, of him, of us? I will do anything, Emily. Anything. Just tell me. Please. Emily's gaze softened, a flicker of empathy in the midst of her unwavering resolve. Richard, you cannot fix me. You cannot reclaim the past. You cannot erase the mistakes or the pain. The only thing you can do is respect my choices, accept the consequences of your obsession, and, perhaps, earn a place in the future through patience, humility, and understanding. Anything else is reckless, destructive, and doomed. His shoulders slumped slightly, chest rising and falling rapidly, the storm of emotions consuming him. He had faced battles, betrayals, and impossible decisions in business, yet none of them had ever shaken him like this. Emily's untouchable presence, her independence, her unwavering strength, they were forces beyond wealth, power, or influence. I don't know if I can, he whispered, voice raw and broken. I have never been powerless. I have never felt so incomplete, so exposed. And yet here I am, face to face with the truth that I cannot control, cannot command, cannot demand. I am lost. Emily's eyes met his, unwavering, holding him in the calm of her certainty. Then perhaps this is the lesson you were meant to learn, Richard. Obsession without respect,